Hello, my name's John Marion. I'm a tutor for Aspire. I've worked for Aspire for the last 7 or 8 years, tutoring various courses including maths, English and family learning. I also have been working in primary schools for the last 30 years, both as a class teacher and senior leader. And currently I work as a supply teacher and have worked in a number of primary schools across the county. Today, I want to have some fun with numbers. Children, it's so important that they get an understanding of number and its value. To start with, what we will need is a piece of paper, an ordinary 1 to 6 dice, and just something to write with, a pen or pencil. First of all, the number line here. You can see at the top here I've drawn a number line. All you need to do, you could print this off on a computer if you want to, or I've just drawn it with a pencil and ruler, and I've marked it off 28 centimetres across, interval each 4 centimetres. I've marked my number, so I've gone from 0 to 70. Might be worth asking your children why only up to 70, thinking about the dice. Now, the idea of the game is that you're playing against your children, playing twos, and the winner is the first one to get 3 in a row. So, for example, if I roll my dice, first of all, I roll a 2. That is my tens. So again, that's going to be 20. Roll it again, I get a 5. So that's 25. Now, you decide who's to go first. And your child is going to think, where am I going to put that 25? So it should go between 20 and 30. So they could put a cross in or a circle, and then it's their partner's go. You roll again. You might want to choose crosses this time. You could use different colours, up to you. And then keep rolling until the winner is the first to get 3 in a row. You might decide to play 4 in a row. Again, if you've got older children, you can go up to hundreds or thousands. So we could go to 700, you could go 0 to 700, you could go 0 to 7,000. Obviously, you'd need to roll the dice 3 times or 4 times, but you can see how you can develop this game depending on the age and ability of the children. You could also use decimals. And it's worth talking to them about the game when, for example, if you are got 2 in a row, you might say, well, what sort of numbers do I need to roll now to get my 3 in a row? Or how can I block 3 in a row? So this is a good game for giving children a good idea of where number values are on a line. Now, children really enjoy this game. They get quite competitive. And again, you could play more than one game. And I think, as I say, I've played this before and children really enjoy this. Moving down, another game that gives children a good understanding of number value is 3 boxes. All I've done is I've drawn 2 sets of 3 boxes, one for one player, one for the other. And again, you decide on the rules before the game. I often start with the biggest number wins. So, for example, I roll first. I roll a 4. Now I've got to decide, where am I going to put the 4 in these boxes? Am I going to put it in the hundreds? Am I going to put it in the tens or the ones? If the highest number wins, I'm probably going to think I might put the 4 in the hundreds column. And then I roll again. I rolled a 1. So here I would think, I can't get any lower than 1. I'm going to put that in the ones column. So now I know I'm going to get 400 something and 1. So I roll again, and now I've got a 5. So I've got 451 in my box. Should have waited maybe, put the 5 in the hundreds column. Now you could roll your dice alternately, and then each player's got to put their number in straight away before the other one rolls. And again, you could change the rules. You might say the lowest number wins, or the number that's nearest, say, to 300. And this gets children thinking all the time about number values and the columns that they're using. Very important to use the language here as well, so children understand tens, hundreds, larger, smaller, and so on. Again, two good games which help you with place value. Another good game to improve children's understanding of number is to make a set of cards 0 to 9. These are just number digits. You could print these off from a computer maybe, or get the children to make their own. They could colour them in and then say to them, maybe take 3 cards. So I'm going to take, I've got the 5, I've got a 3, and I've chosen a 7. So with these 3 cards, 7, 3 and 5, what's the biggest 3-digit number I can make? So you can see it's going to be 753. So children will see different sizes of numbers. Say, what's the smallest number you can make? What's the nearest number you can make to 500? And you can start playing around with these and getting children to really think about the number values, the digit values. You can adapt this. You could have 4 cards. You could have 5 cards. You could even put a decimal point in. You could have 3 cards and say, right, there's going to be a decimal point between the 7 and the 3 and the 5, so 7.35. What other decimals can I make with 2 decimal places, 2 places to the other side of the decimal point? So again, you can adapt this for different ages and abilities. Another good game really to get an understanding of number value. Going to move on now to thinking about numbers that are less than 1. So we call them negative numbers, and going back to my number line, you can see that I've drawn another line, and I've marked it off from -6 to +6. And again, you could play a little game with the dice and say, right, I'm going to roll the dice once. That's going to be positive. So if I roll my dice, I've rolled a 6, and I'm going to go all the way from 0 to 6 there. Then I'm going to roll it again, and this is going to be negative. It's going to go backwards, and it's just 1. So I go from 6 to 5. But it's worth talking to children about what happens when you go to the other side of 0. -1, -2, -3, and so on. And again, you could have a little game moving around the number line, going forwards and backwards and seeing where you end up. So you could say to the children, right, +2 there, -6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I end up on -4. So again, children see that we have numbers less than 0. I would then go on to ask your children, just out of fun, where else do we see negative numbers? Well, most children probably say temperature. But you could also talk about maybe car parks, where you have levels of car park, level 3 down to maybe -3. And you could play around with drawing a car park with levels and getting children to move the car from different levels, up 2, down 4, where do they end up, what level, and so on. Another important aspect of negative numbers is money, isn't it? When we talk about bank accounts and how sometimes we go into the red, we call it. So talk to children about bank accounts, and that sometimes we borrow more than we've got. And a good game for this is we're going to make, I've started here, so just get a piece of paper and just put them into different rectangles or squares and get them to think about money that they might earn and money they've got to pay out. So at the top there, I put pocket money, £6, trainers, £25, and things like that. So they can think about money that's going to be paid out and money that they're going to receive. Then you could talk about a bank account or a savings account. And here you can see I've just labelled an account. I put date, paying in, withdraw, and final balance. Now, a good game would be to get children to make up their own cards of money that they receive, money they pay out. And again, I've got haircuts, £6. I've got birthday money and so on. Get them to make out cards, an equal number, say, of money that they receive, like birthday money, and then money that they would pay out, for example, buying a computer game or set of trainers and so on. Then, between two players, you can play a game where you each have an account sheet like this, and maybe start with a balance of £10. Then cut out all your cards, lay them face down, and then get each person to take a card first. So, for example, if I've got £10 in my bank account to start with, we start with £10, and I buy a pair of trainers that say are £25, that means I'm going to withdraw £25 in here, and that's going to put my balance into minus £15. So children quickly see that actually there's another example of negative numbers with bank, and you can play this game until all the cards have been taken and see who wins, who's got the most money at the end. And it's a good way of talking to children about, should we borrow money? Should we actually spend more than we've actually got? So you can have a sort of dialogue about money there. So that's another good game, really talking about negative numbers. We're now going to have some fun with adding numbers. To start with, ask children to write the alphabet out, A to Z, and give each letter a value from 1 to 26. So A equals 1, Z equals 26. Then ask them to use these numbers and letters to add up a word score. So, for example, I've worked out the name Peter adds up to 64 using my code at the top there. Ask them to work out their name score. Is their name score, if they've got a brother or sister, is it larger or smaller than them? Could they think of a sport name score? Is football higher than athletics, for example? Could they make a word score that comes to 50 or as near as they can to 50? And again, you can play around with these and make little codes using the numbers instead of the letters, and so on. So, and again, a good little way of helping children to work on their addition with a bit of fun to it. Also, another little puzzle is something called magic squares. You can see what I've done. I've made a 3x3 square, and in each box I've got to put my digits 1 to 9 so that each total comes to 15. So going down, it will add up to 15. A diagonal going across here at 15, and also going across, it will add up to 15. So again, you could use your digit cards, 1 to 9, and then play with these, put them in the various boxes, see if they can make the magic total of 15. Now, you could also ask them, see if they can make their own magic square. Could they use other numbers? So again, quite a bit of fun playing around with a magic square to make the total of 15. I'd say given them the first set there, 2, 9 and 4. Again, depending on the ability, age of the child, you might just say to them, right, I'm not going to give you any digits here. See if you can actually find the total of 15 on your own. Or you might just give them one digit, the 4, and maybe the 2 at the other end, something like that. So these are magic squares. Another thing you could say to them, if I added 6 to each number, would I still have a magic square? What would my magic total be then? Um, Again, a good little way of playing around with numbers, making up a magic square. Another fun item is here, for example, written the number 34. Can they reverse the number, which will give me 43? Now, if I add the two numbers together, I get 77. Now, again, if I do that with another two-digit number, 21, reverse it, I get 12. Add the two numbers together, I get 33. What do they notice? Now, the children should say that the tens digit and the ones digit is the same. Now, there's a special name for these numbers. They read the same backwards as forwards. They're called palindromes. Now, once they've understood this, or if you want them to move on, you could actually go to three-digit numbers. So here I've put 412. I've reversed it to 214. And when I add those two numbers together, I get 626, which again is another palindrome. Reads the same backwards as forwards. You know, does this always work with three-digit numbers? Can they test that out? Could they move on to four-digit numbers? If I reverse them, will I get a palindrome? And finally, using palindromes as a challenge, think about the year. It's 2020 at the moment. What would be the next palindrome year? So read the same backwards as forwards as well. Another important number aspect of math is times tables, and having tutored quite a few adults, surprising how many adults still don't understand or know their times tables, and these are so crucial with all sorts of maths as you get older. And here's some sort of games to help children sort of learn their tables. Certainly in my day, I can remember being taught by rote, and I know my times tables now. But I think today we need to think of perhaps more fun ways of teaching times tables. One way, especially if you've got a space in your garden, maybe you could do it in your front room, is get children to step out the numbers. So, for example, if they're quite young children and just learning their two times table, they could step out 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and they could call the numbers out as they step around the garden. Make it a bit harder. You could say start at 20 and step back to 0, 20, 18, 16, and so on. And obviously, the more tables the children know, the different ways you could do this. They could step out their 6 times table, or their 9 times table, or even their 12 times table, and making it harder, step backwards. Another fun game with times tables is to get children to call out their times tables. So, for example, 2, 4, 6, 8. But this time, say that if the number's got a 4 in it, they have to say cat. So, 0, 2, cat, 6, 8, 10, 12, cat. You can see this. Children have to start to think about this, and you could do this as a partner in pairs. You say one number, you say 2, they say cat, you say 6, they say 8, and so on. To make it harder, you could even say, right, if the number's got a 6 in it, you have to say dog. And you could adapt this for different times tables, 3, 4, 5, 6, again, all the way up to 12 times table. And it makes it harder because children have to think of that number. So that's quite a fun way of looking at times table and getting children to learn their times tables. Another good way, playing a game again, and we would need our ordinary 1 to 6 dice, is to make a grid like this. And you can see what I've done is I've put all the numbers that we would actually make if we rolled the dice twice. So, for example, if I rolled a 3 and a 6, I'd have 18. There's my 18 there. So all the numbers are on there. And if you want to, you could ask your children to do that themselves, get them to make the grid. Then either using counters if you've got them, or just a pencil crayon, or you roll the dice twice. So I rolled a 4 and then a 6. So what's 4 times 6? So 24. Then either colour that in, put a counter on it. Then your partner has a go at the person and they roll a 3 and a 4. That gives me 12. And then I would colour that in a different colour, or I could put a circle around it, something that's different to my partner. Another good thing is to say to them, actually, I rolled a 4 and a 3. Is there any other way I could make a 12? And hopefully they will come up with 6 times 2. Are there any other numbers here that can be made by rolling different numbers on the dice? It's quite interesting to get children then to think of how that works. And again, play it as a game. And then when everything's filled in, who's got the most colours, or who's got the most circles or crosses? And again, you can see how that game could have be times tables, but it's quite a bit of fun. If you wanted to adapt it, you could use your digit cards that we made earlier, digit cards we had here. So you could then actually take the digit cards and say, right, I'm going to take 2 cards, and here you're using numbers bigger than 6. So that would mean you would have to think, what numbers would I have to use in this grid to make this game? So that's quite another interesting way of using times tables, and use a sort of game format as well. Right, I hope you've enjoyed this video, Fun with Numbers. Have a go at some of the activities. I think children will find it fun. I've used these in schools. I've also used these if I've tutored people privately, and they work very well. And also they help children to learn about number. Important to remember the language that we use so that children get to know things like negative numbers, addition, and words like that. If you want to watch any other videos that Aspire have produced, feel free to go to the Aspire website. Thank you.